Yeah, sorry folks, we're just getting settled in, so give us a bit of time. Can folks hear me right now?
Yes.
Okay, I think everyone's, can we get that turned on, sorry? I'm unmuted. So where am I speaking from?
There.
Okay.
Speak, please.
Hello,
Testing 1, 2, 3.
can you hear us in the room?
Probably.
Maybe we can
Yeah, they
ask?
say we can hear.
No, but that was from earlier. Can someone like let us know that they can hear us?
They can
okay,
hear.
Awesome. Okay, so I don't have a gavel. Naomi, please bring it to me. I call this meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. So everyone should have signed in already. We're good to go. Can I get an approval of the agenda? I move to approve. No. Sorry. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Like, I speak loud so the mic can hear you as well.
Jane?
Okay, can I strike TGIF?
No, that's perfect. That's awesome.
He said to speak loud.
That's perfect.
Mona?
Can I start my appointment for USAC Meeting?
Sarah?
Can I start for an advocacy grant?
Okay, Andy?
Hi, can I strike ASRF allocations, please?
I don't see anyone else wants to amend the agenda. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I move to approve the November 7th, 16th meeting agenda.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, motions, pass the seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Oh my God, sorry, I need to charge this laptop. Let's die on me. 1, 2, 3.
And you have one on the screen.
Yeah, so I think it's 12. By a vote of 12 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the agenda for this week is approved. Moving on to the approval of last week's minutes, can I get a motion, please? Okay.
I move to approve the minutes from November 9th.
Can I get a second?
Second.
motions, Tay seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. And by a vote of 12 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and the agenda for last week is approved. Great, moving straight into public comment. Public comment is a time that is allocated to members of the public who would wish to speak to us at this time. Remember to use gender-inclusive language, use respectful language. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability. And with that, please go ahead and raise your hands if you would like to make public comment at this time, and we will promote you and I will call on you once you have been promoted. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, this is so hard to navigate. Okay, would you guys like to go first? Sorry.
You have the phone.
I don't know. Can people introduce themselves? Sorry. I'm like, I wanted to say you.
My name is Kayla. I'm from the campus and also the director of student activities, so I feel like the Chapter Learning Experience. I just like to say I really appreciate all of you who've already scheduled, and I've had a transfer learning experience. It was great meeting all of you, like individual as well as all of your offices, and a majority of you have already completed it, and I have like a few later for this week, and I'll read them to this one towards tomorrow, so I'm excited for that. And I just want to give like also another little reminder to sign up if you haven't already. So there's only like 2 offices remaining that haven't signed up yet. Please just respond back to my email. I know you all like really care about students and the training community too. So yeah, I just want to say thank you, and yeah, I really appreciate you all.
Thank you. Feel free to give public comment.
Hi. Okay, I just have a question first. How does it work with people using their time?
What do you mean, sorry?
Sorry, people can yield their like minute time to someone else, right?
Yeah, I think like, oh, can you come closer actually, because they can't hear on the Zoom?
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
Like in the center.
Yeah, maybe. It's our first time.
All right, can everyone hear me now? Yeah, kind of. Okay, cool. I was just wondering, how does the yielding time work for public comment?
I think that you can feel time. Did you have like a written public comment that you wanted to give?
Like, yeah, written, but can I say it out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might just take more than a minute, that's why I was
No.
wondering.
Yeah, don't worry. And
So
if it
just
takes
keep
longer,
going?
we can vote to make it longer.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Let me see. One second. All right, let me go ahead and start. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexia Montilas. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the president of Samahang Filipino UCLA, which is one of UCLA's mother organizations. I'm talking on behalf of the negligence that has been done by the Community Programs Office to Samahang and to the other mother organizations. So just some background, Samahang Filipino currently has 2 projects housed in the Campus Retention Committee and the Student Initiated Outreach Committee. Samahang Filipino Education and Retention, or SPEAR, and Samahang Filipino Advancing Community Empowerment, or SPACE. For decades, these 2 projects have been cornerstones of Samahang Filipino and one of the main reasons that we have been able to create a thriving, beautiful Filipinx community. In 1987, the 4-year graduation rate of Filipinx identifying students was only 15.7%. However, due to the efforts of SPEAR and their model of student-centered, culturally relevant counseling, the 4-year graduation rate of Filipinx students has sat consistently around 80% for the past few years. And for the past 20 years, SPACE has conducted thousands of sessions at local high schools and community colleges, encouraging students to apply to higher education. Last year alone, despite a global pandemic, SPACE was able to conduct more than 1,600 virtual peer advising and peer tutoring sessions at our 3 sites. Since 2002, our projects have been underneath the administrative jurisdiction of the Community Programs Office. However, under the directorship of Antonio Sandoval, our projects have suffered more than a decade of consistent harassment, intimidation, and negligence of the highest degree that has consistently hurt the operations and outcomes of our project. Salmahong Filipino cannot and will not tolerate the utter dereliction of our projects by the Community Programs Office. Antonio Sandoval, with the support of administration, including Chancellor Jean Block, Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Monroe Gordon, and Assistant Vice Chancellor Nick DeLuca, have continuously and undoubtedly stripped power from students, denying students full autonomy within their own projects. As an organization, we believe that these administrators are responsible for the creation and maintenance of a toxic professional relationship by redirecting student energies to irrelevant conflicts, pitting students and communities against one another, and blaming students for the lack of progress and work completed. When students shared about the harassment, hostility, and gaslighting enacted by CPO administrators over and over again, we were ignored until we were able to speak to the Chancellor on May 26th of this year, 2021, and in response, administrators told us they could not apologize for anything. Generations of student leaders from Salmahong Filipino, Spear, and Space have resigned due to this treatment. And whenever other students bring these concerns to UCLA administration, they have been dismissed and shut out until they term out or graduate. We also believe that the CPO is incapable of overseeing the projects due to their administrative overstepping, incompetence, and negligence. In August 2020, Spear found itself without a project coordinator and full-time employee that supports their respective project with major logistical and administrative responsibilities. Following a review of applications for the position and subsequent interviews, the student members of both hiring committees reached consensus on the candidate to hire for the open positions. These decisions, however, were not supported by the CPO representatives sitting on the student hiring committees. These concerns were deeply considered during the committee's deliberations, but were outweighed by the majority's confidence in the qualifications of the chosen candidates for both projects. However, despite the majority of students approving the hiring of a project coordinator, the CPO refused to hire our project coordinator, leaving Spear without a PC for an entire year. As a result of CPO's actions, our student project coordinator for this past year, Drake Kipe, fulfilled the duties of their part-time position and the project coordinator's full-time position for several months. This put enormous stress on not only our assistant project coordinator, but our project as a whole, which served 400 and more students at the time. CPO administration continually failed us when we attempted to communicate a solution with them, and as a result, we did not receive a new project coordinator until a year later. CPO continues to give us troubles with hiring, as demonstrated by the fact that both Spear and Space staff were hired more than 3 months late, and they overall are not fit to oversee student hiring in their current state. Additionally, we are extremely concerned with the disbursement of the Campus Retention Committee, or CRC, and Student Initiated Outreach Committee, SIOC funds, considering these funds are comprised of student fees collected in accordance with the social justice referendum, pledge referendum, post referendum, care referendum, academic success referendum, and the service referendum. The Statement of Understandings, or SOUs, for the SIOC and CRC state that an annual budget report must be presented to USAC, something that has not been done in years. Similarly, both committees are to maintain full authority and jurisdiction over all the funds for student-initiated outreach and the special education membership fees, both of which are allocated to the SIOC and CRC respectively. However, CPO administration has limited the autonomy of committee members in both the handling and decision-making regarding the distribution of these funds by providing committee members with budget limits and have negated any further conversation on line item requests due to these imposed budget restraints. Finally, CPO's administrative staff have withheld budget reports despite persistent demands from committee members and their respective chairs. They have repeatedly claimed that the presentation of these budgets are not of the utmost priority. This claim is paradoxical given that the communities are granted the authority over the allocation of these funds and subsequently reserve the right to demand such requests from an administrative entity that is meant to act as university support. The blatant disregard of the committee's demands contradicts the fundamental notion that these committees are meant to be student-run and student-initiated. It is clear that the undergraduate students who comprise the SIOC and CRC are not to blame, but rather the CPO administration, who has continuously worked to strip students of their mandated rights. It doesn't feel right to touch on our history without acknowledging the trailblazers that have come before us. To Nuno Bagaporo, Kim Bonifacio, H.E. Thompson, Justin Suarez, Jack Shannon, Heron Kailau, Jasmine Alcantara, Andrea Manrique, to Drake Kipe and the 2020-2021 Spear staff, to Josephine Flores, Annalene Elaine Tenderon, and Maxine De Malanta. Thank you so much for mobilizing and unifying our community during an unprecedented time and for serving as an inspiration to the future leaders of tomorrow. And to every student leader that's come before us, thank you for allowing us to step into your power so we could be here today. Samahang Filipino stands in solidarity with the Mother Organization Coalition of UCLA in reclaiming our authority over student-initiated, student-run projects by denouncing the actions that have been taken by the Office of Student Affairs and the CPO. We demand that the university meet our request and respect the autonomy and agency of all of the mother organizations in order to ensure that our projects do not see delays in their hiring and services. We will no longer tolerate the ever-present dismissal of our concerns and any form of retaliation that may be imposed on the projects housed under the SIOC and CRC. We will, however, continue to carry on our long legacy of advocacy and social justice on this campus and will not allow this to interrupt our progressive movement towards the full liberation of our communities. Thank you for my time, and I hope all of you bring this into consideration to the utmost respect. Thank you.
Justin?
Good, y'all. Hello. Alexia did a great job laying the groundwork, so I'm just gonna try to fill in any gaps. But my name is Justin Rodriguez, and I'm this year's internal chair of Metro. I come in solidarity with the African Student Union, but also with hope for a better future for all student-run projects. I come with folks behind me. I come with those that have come before me. And in my mind, I see the future clearly for student autonomy and justice for students that come after me. In my time here at UCLA, the Community Programs Office has been responsible for incredibly unprofessional behavior for an administrative body, delaying our projects in retaliation for speaking out for our projects, to have gotten better treatment during COVID, hiring PCs on time, regularly planning events with admin, drinking with students, yelling and harassing student leaders and counselors on a regular basis, and engaging in student government politics in order to deplatform students who disagreed with their policies. Personally, I have friends who still grieve with workplace trauma from the space perpetuated by everyone from Antonio Sandoval to former project coordinators. And I myself have memories that are too painful to share here. In recent memory, the Community Programs Office, as an administrative oversight to the committees, has been responsible for hiring delays, hostile meetings, and barriers placed on any attempts to hold CPO accountable the last 5 years. Scratch that, in the last 15 years. In particular, ASU's projects, and especially their Access project, have faced extreme barriers during hiring and planning their sites for the year. Our projects have also faced extreme delays. Right now, our Access project, Chinatli, is barely getting on its feet and is still inoperable. We missed the latest cycle for high school students, so. Not because of a lack of trying though, it's because of new hiring barriers and delays from our administrative oversight who is supposed to support us. It's my duty as an internal chair to do whatever we can to support each of the projects as best as we can. It's my job for the current counselors and students seeking counseling, as well as those that have come before me and those that will come after, to begin to imagine what is the future for our student-run access and retention programs at UCLA. And that starts with holding CPO accountable. Thank you.
Sachi?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. Just really quickly, I am here in my capacity as a member of the CS Mini Fund. Applications are open. They were delayed, but we have an emergency fund available. It's open now on my UCLA. It closes next week on Wednesday. I have a graphic for all of you to share on your social medias. I can drop it in like the USAC Slack if that's easiest, but please, please, please like send that to your directors. And yeah, just also an announcement that we are working on the guidelines, editing some things, and hopefully we'll be able to encourage groups such as the retention projects to apply to CS Mini in the future, but that's upcoming. For now, please just post the graphic. It's open. You will all get the graphic. Thank you.
Thank you, Sachi.
Lala?
Hey y'all, I'm Lalo. I am a Metro alumni as well as former USAC Gen Rep 1 in the 2019-2020 academic school year. And I'm here alongside with some other alumni, and also just as a member previously of Metro Calmecac, one of the retention projects, a former member of the Campus Retention Committee as the AAC appointment, and as a former USAC member, to really urge you all to pass the resolution that is on y'all's agenda today, that really outlines the egregious violations that the CPO and UCLA Student Affairs Administration have committed to continuously disempower and disenfranchise student-initiated, student-run projects on this campus. This, as other folks have mentioned, has been a history ever since Tony Sandoval became director of the CPO, and he has continuously created an unsafe work environment for both student staff and full-time project staff that are project coordinators. I think that it is important as a USAC to stand in solidarity with the other organizations. I applaud y'all for doing that. And I think that this is really a pivotal time right now to really ensure that these wrongs that have been going on for the last 13 years can be righted by removing the CPO from their position they're in right now, where they're continuously harming students even up until right now. Thank you.
Robert?
Hi, everybody. I'm Robert Watson. I served as the Undergraduate Students Association Internal Vice President for the 2018-2019 school year and served as the Undergraduate Students Association President for the 2019-2020 school year. I was also a first-year board member of UCLA's Queer Alliance. I just want to state that throughout my time on council, I experienced CPO's systemic queerphobia, intimidation tactics, and misuse of student fees at the expense of student-ran and student-initiated projects, including the SIOC and CRC. My first encounter with CPO administration's attacks on queer students and on council was the appointment of Richard White to the election board chair, where he referred to students, the 4 openly queer council members, as ladies, gentlemen, and homosexuals. My next encounter was a meeting with Tony Sandoval at California Pizza Kitchen, where he dismissed my and other council members' queerness by saying that we had zero experience to know what it would be like to be marginalized as a student on campus. And finally, the countless anonymous Google Forms and submission forms throughout the 2020 school year that specifically attacked me, other queer students, and other Black students serving as council members with multiple derogatory terms. But beyond the personal attacks and intimidation by CPO staff and administration, I hope that this current USAC knows that this fight against the toxicity and mismanagement of the CPO administration is one that is rooted in a long history of activism, both by council and the mother organizations. The 2019-2020 USAC fought for the entirety of our year to seek out CPO transparency. We unanimously and on multiple occasions have asked for budgets, asked for the toxicity to end, and have stood with the mother organizations. We've withheld checks only for this issue to persist, and I commend you all for your work on this and support you in your entirety. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Nadira?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Nadira Stevens. I am the former Academic Affairs Commissioner of USAC year, Jesus, it's been a minute, 2018 to 2019. I was the former SLC chairperson the year before that, as well as the ASU Access Coordinator. For the year I was a SLC chairperson and the year beforehand. One thing I would like to speak to several different points. As you have heard before, you've heard from Mecha as well as Samahang Filipino. All of these things are different things that the ASU projects have also dealt with single-handedly. One of the things I want to just highlight is that this is a really breakdown of leadership, right? These issues are egregious, and they're egregious from multiple fronts, largely because the leadership in which they are housed are also signed by someone who is not only well-versed, but also very knowledgeable about the pillars of the student initiated and student ran. One of the largest things that's been iterated yearly after year is the undermining of that within our professional project staff. The biggest benefit or purpose in having a housing department is so that way we can have professional management and compliance for professional and project staff, namely salary staff. What I would like to highlight is that project staff have been go through series of meetings weekly, and I've been through multiple project coordinators in my tenure as access coordinator to get the feedback. As you know, the mother organizations work to audit the projects, supervise the projects, and also aid into their success and their daily practices, whether that is on-site visits, as well as sending memos for any budgetary needs of the project. But in those conversations, you also hear project coordinators lamenting on how the CPO professional administrative staff undermines. Multiple project coordinators, those involved in lawsuits and otherwise, can attest to being told that student initiated, student ran is dead. Now, we would be remiss to acknowledge this as an issue of hurting students' feelings. It's not about feelings, it's about structure, it's about compliance, and it's about proper leadership. These project coordinators present to student-initiated committees for budgets. They submit their budgets to students. All of any type of processing that they need to have done is done through students. It is asinine, let alone confusing, and also with just poor leadership to undermine these pillars that are pressed forward. It's listed in their job descriptions when they apply. It's listed in their daily practices when they do their summer evaluations. When they ask for budgets and send memos, they need the co-sponsorship of their access and retention coordinators, as well as their mother organization chairpersons. So what you see is this is an environment that breaks down systemically and structurally the progress and performance of these projects, right? And there has to be, that we have to think critically about these aren't just personal attacks or issues, and I think this has been taken lightly. What you will see is an undermining of people saying, oh, well, they're just carrying on the plight of their alumni. This is not true. This is not true. It cannot be true if this is an issue that is encountered and experienced annually, because also the structure permits new leadership to develop within these spaces, which means you have a new set of project coordinators, new sets of access coordinators and retention coordinators and leadership. And if they all have the same story, then that means that there is something going on structurally. I also want to highlight the absence in leadership as far as, and I'll be specific, into Antonio Sandoval. He is aware of student grievances, and the response is often dismissive. Dismissive meaning, students know where my office is, students should come and talk to me, students this and that, right? But the issue about that and what leadership that should have been present and should have been acted upon is, I hear these student concerns, even if it's inadvertently the case, leadership should have looked like, let me call all these students in, and so we can get a grand understanding. What students have experienced, and myself personally, is we've had these task force, we've had lawyers come from student affairs to basically have us audit, right, the statement of understanding. In my year, I was one of the only chairpersons, inclusive of the CRC chairperson, as well as the supposed chairperson, who had adequately read both statements of understanding. None of those chairpersons had come from either of the mother organization projects, specifically those housed in the CRC and the SIOC. There is a large breakdown in leadership and accountability, and we can't allow dismissiveness to ensue, because what we see is an overall negligence. And then when students call these things out, things that should be readily rectified and adapted to, there is a breakdown and there's retaliation. Ultimately, one of the things that we need to understand is that these are student fees, these things are substantiated and institutionalized, and they need to be handled accordingly. And they also need to be meeting the bare minimum demand, so that way we can adapt to the realities of a new situation, such as the COVID-19 pandemic and pending hiring freezes that should have or should not have happened. So I just want to tie this all together, all to say that it's really just a mismanagement of leadership, and there's not a lot of ownership that's being done, and there's not the accountability to recenter. How do we uphold the pillars the originality of the structure to adapt to a new time. That's not the engagement that's taking place in the CPO space. There's elusiveness, there's negligence, there is constant undermining of student leadership, while simultaneously putting project professional staff in the space to be evaluated by student leadership. And there's also no development in terms of how the project staff are there's no leadership in terms of how project professional staff, most notably the salary staff, in terms of how to do their jobs outside of understanding CPO's perspective of history. Anytime history is to be disseminated, it should be disseminated from not only one singular perspective, but for something that's going to be conducive to the projects, and project professional staff are left feeling unsupported, untrained, and undeveloped, but yet carrying the burden of having to navigate between mother organizational staff and also their professional staff that signs their checks, which is also still money that has been institutionalized by student referendum and the structures that are already there. So I think that we need to think critically and impress upon the Student Affairs Office to really put the projects in the best position to perform adequately so that they can maintain their aims and their needs. Employee and hiring compliance and paycheck and payment compliance, these are California issues that need to be met universally, outside of the university, outside of any space. In fact, most companies pay fines to their employees for being late upon payment. So this is like a major issues. This is not just student politics. These are compliant issues, and these are students of color. We come from all student leadership, as you all know, USAC included, are high-risk students, right? These are high-risk students who come from areas where they're trying to better their communities. No one can afford to be paid late and not on time. No one can afford to be underdeveloped or in a hostile work environment. This is the whole point of why this structure and this space is created to exist, to help to create access and retention for these very vulnerable communities. And we cannot be in a space that allows us to continue to be very vulnerable. All right, so I just want to give space to others because I know I've been speaking lately, but I just wanted to highlight that these are major structural issues and leadership breakdowns that cannot ensue. This is beyond politics, and we would be remiss to let the conversation go in that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadira. Karen?
Hi, my name is Karen Lane. I am an alumni. I was the USAC president in 2001 to 2002, and the chair of the African Student Union the year prior to becoming USAC president. I'm actually the USAC president that negotiated and signed the MOU between the university and that created the Student Initiated Outreach Committee. Prior to, I also signed the SOU between the university and CRC as the USAC president. I can say that I am deeply saddened to hear many of the students' accounts and the serious allegations that are being made against the CPO staff. It disheartens me as an alum. It disheartens me as one of the students who fought, who stood on the walk, and asked other students who were not students of color, as well as students of color, to tax themselves, to increase their student fees, to establish resources for students to have empowerment and power to actually help retain other students, to outreach to the community, to increase diversity on our campus. But more importantly, what resonated with those students was this idea that as students, we have the power, the knowledge, and expertise because to run student services, because we were the closest to the problem. And so we knew the solution, and that also we had the expertise and the knowledge to control where our resources went as students. And that really was what we fought for, this idea of student empowerment. It saddens me to hear the deterioration of the role of students in shaping their projects, shaping their outreach to the communities they come from and they serve, from limiting their ability to shape what retention looks like, what the models of how do we retain ourselves here on this campus. And more importantly, I think that should be important to you as representatives of the entire campus, is that the loss of control of how your student fees are being used by the CPO. And so, I'm many years removed from the campus. I was very active as an alum when I first graduated, and many of those same complaints that I hear now, I heard then. And at a certain point, I actually removed myself from some of the conversations because they began to get so toxic. And I can say as an alum, I experienced CPO staff really discouraging students from connecting with their alumni, to having that institutional knowledge to pass on. And so I actually did remove myself. And so to come back and hear that things have gotten worse, that staff are not being held accountable, and that we see that these complaints are not only still there, but they actually worsen. And so I stand in solidarity with the students. I'm hopeful to just remind USAC of your role of really protecting students. Those are student fees that support those projects. You have student leaders in front of you asking for your help and your intervention. And I would just encourage you to continue to educate yourself about this, but to follow the lead of the students that you represent. These are student leaders who are sacrificing their time, balancing, just like you as student leaders, the responsibility of leadership and as well as being students, to care for their entire community and to run projects. And so I just ask you to really open your ears and stand in solidarity and really take your role as USAC representatives of the entire student campus very seriously. These students are making very serious allegations, and that you are their representative to the university, and to ensure that CPO is held accountable and that their grievances and their concerns are taken seriously. So I leave you with that as alum, as well as someone who sat in your seat and realized the importance and the significance of the vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen, for coming out to speak. Eden?
Hi, my name is Eden. I'm the External Assistant Director of the Asian Pacific Coalition, one of the 10 mother organizations. APC doesn't have access and retention projects of our own, but we wanted to verbally show solidarity with our fellow MOs, our fellow student organizers, our comrades in this struggle against CPO administration. It doesn't take working at CPO or having a project under CPO to understand the harm that this administration has caused. They've gaslit and bullied students, but like Nadir has said, they've structurally stripped student autonomy, our self-determination, our ability to make decisions for ourselves. And folks are really tired, we're done. So to put it simply, this can't keep happening. Because of specific administrative staff, CPO has devolved into a toxic and unsafe environment. And it's making it really difficult for us to have a vibrant culture of student organizing when it's under constant assault by CPO administration and under the direction of Antonio Sandoval. So I just wanted to reiterate that CPO administration is incompetent. They have no place being the administrative designee of student-initiated projects, and their behavior over the last 13 years has done nothing but confirm that their uselessness. So you all to please pass this resolution so students can continue doing this work on their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eden. Naomi?
Hi, everyone. I will turn on my camera just because this feels a little awkward. I'm just looking at a screen, but my name is Naomi. I served as the 2020-2021 Undergraduate Student Association President. I also was the Academic Affairs Commissioner the year before, and then I also had the privilege of serving as a peer counselor for the Academic Advancement Program, and so I know how important student retention is, especially when we're talking about students of color, in this specific context, Black students, who I, again, just want to recenter. I'll try not to repeat a lot of what was said by some of my amazing peers and folks who had came before me, but a lot of these projects, or all of these projects, started because of the very low retention and access rates that we had to even being admitted to the university. Especially as a Black student on campus, We know that retention is an issue. We know that even getting to a university like UCLA is such a almost untenable goal. And so it's so important that we listen to Black students who know themselves best, who know what their communities need the most, and who are saying, remove us from this toxic environment that has historically been a toxic space for these students. And so I think that this is long overdue. I'm so heartwarmed to see the amount of support here from alumni, from students who are current at UCLA, and really think it's important to look to them for next steps. I also just wanted to say last year I served on the revision. It was the SOU Revision Committee. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a committee that was made up of a few of the SIOC chair and the CRC chair, as well as some folks from USAC, and then administrators. And those spaces were incredibly unproductive. They were also incredibly harmful to the reps that were there. And that plus what one of the CRC representatives was going through within the space kind of forced her to move herself out of the space. So I, again, just want to uplift that we have seen this year after year, and it's really time that we support students and listen to what they're saying. Speaking as a former president, I also want to uplift how important it is for student fee transparency to be a priority. I know when I was academic affairs commissioner before I became president, we tried to run the Cultivating Unity for Bruins referendum, and we were met with fervent opposition from the student body who had questioned why they should choose to increase their student fees by another $45 a year if we couldn't even manage the $2.7 million that were coming from another entity. And again, it's so hard to even ask folks to tax themselves, even when it's for a good cause. And so it's so important that our students know where their money is going, but most importantly, the students on those committees who believe in the principles of student autonomy, student advocacy, student initiation, or student initiated projects are given priority, and make sure that we address those longstanding harms that have that continue to be just a problem within the space. So thanks everyone for taking the time to listen to all of us. And I really encourage you all, even if you don't necessarily completely understand everything that's been said, to lean into the folks that are here tonight, especially council members. I believe it's your duty and responsibility to be very aware of these issues, and to continue to educate yourselves on them, and to educate the student body on them too, because this issue won't go away. And the administration and just systems in general, they wait till people term out, they wait until people graduate, they wait until people don't necessarily have as much of a voice in these issues to kind of just, again, keep the same kind of turnover. So thanks again.
Thank you, Naomi. Emily?
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Leung and I served as the USAC Internal Vice President for the 2020-2021 academic year, and was also a member of the Vietnamese Student Union throughout my 4 years at UCLA. In my second year, I worked as a staff member for VSU's Retention Project C-Clear, which is housed under the Community Programs Office. I'm here to reinforce what many others have already come to say, that the Community Programs Office has engaged in harassment and retaliation against students who they're supposed to serve, and that the administrative oversight of this office has completely undermined the concept of student-run, student-initiated that underlined the creation of our projects. Last year, the CPO interfered in the hiring process of our retention project's project coordinator, forcing a staff of part-time workers and full-time students to take over the full-time role while already being grossly overworked and underpaid, which I can attest to because I was one of those staff members myself 2 years before. They have created an unsafe work environment for many of the student staff who have served in the projects, as well as the retention coordinators and appointments who serve on the SIOC and CRC. This behavior has directly threatened the retention of students of color, which I see as sadly ironic, seeing as they operate the Student Retention Center. They have been openly negligent, openly anti-Black, and openly anti-student empowerment, and it's long past time for accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. I believe that we have Jennifer, and then can we also promote that other person, please?
Greetings. I'm Jennifer White and graduate of UCLA in 1994 and 2006. I'm a double Bruin and also had the pleasure of serving on CPO staff as an advisor. And I was actually hired by Tony. And, CPO during my time was just a place for students to affirm our value in the community, to learn leadership roles, to learn how to get along with our peers, and, just really have space and time to affirm ourselves in the places of our community and among leading projects that we're doing good. And it's really disheartening to me. It's a slippery slope as an advisor at UCLA in the CPO where, by nature, historically, our role is to really challenge the university, right? To encourage students who self-initiate, to encourage, to support themselves in graduating and in supporting their community to access education, to be limited by the staff of the CPO. And so I would just want to support the African Student Union and encourage USAC, who, as Karen Lane was saying, is the representative of the student body. And I have to also admit that I've heard complaints for many years about what's going on, and that the students are so feeling so disrespected and unable to function and run their projects that they need to withdraw. And given that, I think that, Bruins are brilliant, and hearing the articulation of students regarding the issues that they're facing, that they have documented, as I said, again, it's disheartening. So I just would implore you to, as student leaders, to support your student leaders in initiating their truths and what they're facing in the one space on campus that was always a place for unity in the community, was always a place for opposing ends of a conversation or spectrum of the argument, to meet in the middle and come together and really have hard and difficult conversations, but know that in love, two minds are always better than one. And so I don't hear that coming from CPO right now. And again, I would encourage you to listen to the students who are there. And I hope that especially the African Student Union can find a place where they can grow and nurture and connect with the other mother orgs and continue to flourish, and been raised by and are proud to be in the world as a product of the CPO. And so I won't talk all night, but thank you for allowing me this time. And best of luck to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I believe Manwa or Casey, if you wanted to go.
I can go. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Breeze, for inviting us and for bringing this issue to the council. I want to encourage you all to support the decision. It's a long time coming, and we're really talking about many years, several years, almost a little over a decade of the undermining of student-initiated, student-run access and retention projects. I don't want to talk too long. I mean, the stories that I've heard over the years, I get calls as an alum who did some training. I was a BSA chair at UCLA. I was one of the founders of the Campus Retention Committee, actually one of the authors of the original document that became the first SOU for the Campus Retention Committee, became a project director for ASP, was the first advisor for the CRC. So I have an intimate understanding of what the advising in a student-initiated, student-run space should look like. And so I just want to encourage you to really respond to the stories that you've heard from so many students and alumni, all of whom shared these stories when there were students, and many of whom
You're cutting out, Casey.
salute you for several other reasons. Number one, for exercising what is your authority over these funds. Unfortunately, it feels like a big step and you've run into a lot of obstacles getting here, but it is simply your authority. And I would say your responsibility to ensure that these funds are used as originally intended. I also want to appreciate you for defending the authority of the mother orgs over their projects. The principle of folks from marginalized communities being able to have space to create their own solutions to the problems that they're affected by. We're talking about project staff that are working to retain their peers, people that they talk with every day, people that they know, people that they have developed relationships with as students. We're talking about young people from their community, sometimes that may come from their families or go to the high schools that they went to, or high schools that are similar to the high schools that they come from. And so the idea of this kind of self-determination in education is an important principle, and it's a part of UCLA's legacy, to be honest with you, that UCLA is somehow going through this process of self-inflicting wounds on itself, for something that it created and that is now spread throughout the UC system. Part of the reason why there are student-initiated, student-run retention centers throughout the UC system at 6 or 7 other campuses is because most of those campuses followed the lead of UCLA in establishing their centers. So this is part of our legacy. I also want to affirm the fact that you've taken responsibility for not only ensuring that these funds are used as intended, but also that they are distributed in a way that respects the integrity of the idea of student-initiated, student-run. The alumni who preceded you, the students who were there voting for these referendum, putting these structures in place, entrusted you. This is what you've inherited as students leaders, is the responsibility for this. So I encourage you not to let this continue on your watch. That's the reality. Many of us who have been engaged in this issue over the years, some of the alumni, all have really hesitated to take the kind of step that you're taking because we felt that it might negatively impact the ability of the projects to function effectively. And I'm here to say, first and foremost, we were wrong, because it's only gotten worse, as one of our other alums spoke to it a little bit earlier. Karen Lane, I believe, spoke to the fact that we were wrong. We should have really taken steps as alumni to voice our concerns. I've done so in writing. I can forward to you all the letters that I've written to Vice Chancellor Gordon, who I think also should be held accountable in this process by withholding these funds. You are also putting him on notice that he has been neglectful in his duty, because he is actually the responsible signatory. Associate Vice Chancellor Mick DeLuca is also culpable in this, who has defended these actions and the behavior in CPO for years, and literally has not done anything to support the development of these student leaders. And that's all the advisors are there to do, to support the development of folks who are taking on a responsibility that serves their communities and also can become useful leadership and professional development down the line. And lastly, and most importantly, I appreciate you for standing up for our communities, because that's what you're doing. That's most important. Retention services are being compromised as we speak. Peer counselors have to devote energy to dealing with all kinds of obstruction that's been taking place over the years, preventing them from reaching out to their peers and effectively serving them. Same goes for outreach services. There are students in the high schools who are not being served unnecessarily with structures that the CPO administration has not even used in its own hiring. right, has not used this kind of diligence that they're expecting from these organizations, these student organizations to carry out. So I appreciate you for standing up for those principles. I appreciate you for standing up and defending our legacy, but then again, most importantly, for defending the right and the ability of communities to develop solutions to the problems that they face when the university has failed them, because that's what brought us here. The university's failure to effectively retain, the university's failure to effectively grant college access. And we said without any hesitation and any stuttering, we said, we can provide solutions to our problems that you cannot, right? And so we want to be at the table developing these solutions, implementing our programs, and even our little corner of the world. I mean, let's face it, the CRC's budget is as big as it sounds to us. It's a drop in the bucket when you talk about the kinds of resources the university deals with on a daily basis. But even those small dollars that students are allowed to develop their own solutions, those have to be compromised. Those have to be taken away. Those have to be kind of hijacked by administrators. It's a shame. And I think every administrator involved, from the current CPO director to the associate vice chancellor to the vice chancellor of student affairs to the chancellor, should be ashamed of themselves for allowing this to continue. It's happening on their watch. They are all culpable. And you alone have stood up to defend us, you along with the communities that have attempted to advocate for their projects and retain control over their projects. So we salute you, USAC, for taking this action and supporting our communities in their self-determination and their education at UCLA. Thank you.
Thank you so much for speaking purely facts. Angela?
My apologies. I hate to run down things that I've done because I think what matters most is that I'm here, but just know that that I definitely, I'm fighting allergies and the flu. So forgive me, but this was too important for me not to let ASU know and all of you at USAC know that I am in complete solidarity with the students who are requiring that CPO and the university recognize that they and their voice matters, because what's happened is they've tried to silence ASU and the other orgs that represent diversity. So we cannot allow for this to happen. Like I said at the last meeting that I was at last month or whatever, the people united can never be divided. They know that. So the students united can never be divided. You guys have to stand up. You have to stand up and you have to let your voice be heard. And you have to realize that if this is allowed to happen, it'll be somebody else next. It'll be another group of students next. So you can't just act like, it's just a certain group of people. It's not. It's all students. All students are under attack. And there were some wonderful comments that have been made about that overseer personality and that spirit. I'm gonna take it to that overseer spirit that wants to take control. But you guys have to stand up and be strong. One of the things I have to tell you is when I came from San Diego, my dad had passed away a year before I came to UCLA, and I found my family. I'm not trying not to cry, but I found my family at CPO. Manla and Nosizwe and Butim, Vusi, Yaniso, all of them are still my family. My kids know them as uncles, aunts, the different family, because the CPO was a place where you received your empowerment. And one of the things when you're on the university, especially with a whole lot of people that don't look like you don't feel like you can really make a difference. The CPO allowed us to make a difference in our own community to give back. So, like I said, what I did doesn't matter, but know that I was very involved and that my blood, sweat, and tears is on that campus. And I still work with students to this day. That's why when Simone came to us in a meeting that I was in with Jennifer for something else, I was like, you know what? I got your back. All I need to do is hear that students are being disrespected, and that the CPO or any other part of UCLA that's for students is not functioning the way it should. And I got your back, but you guys have to have each other's backs. The USAC is powerful. You guys as students are powerful. So come together and let the university know that the power is with you. This is your university. So I just want to let you know that we got your back. Every every alumni that's on here and many more have your back. And that's all I really need to say. CPO is extremely powerful. I go spiritual all the time. It's nothing but the enemy trying to tear us apart. And I am sorry that more alumni that we didn't stand in to make sure that we didn't get to this point. So all I can say is we're here now. Students, stay united. Do not allow the university's administration to divide you. That's it. Love you all.
Thank you so much, Angela. I don't see anyone else who would like to make public comment. If you are in the public and would like to make public comment, please say so right now. Going once, going twice. And with that, I end public comment at 8:05 p.m. I know, folks, it's a Tuesday night, so we do have written comment, actually. Can I reopen public comment? Okay, I move to reopen public comment at 8:05 p.m. We will be having written comments, people submitted written comments.
Yeah. Can everyone hear me? Okay. I was looking here. So I sent the link to the written public comment in the Slack, but also can someone send it in the people in the room? Thank you. And then I'm going to read the first one. This is from Jeffrey Umana. It says, "Hello, Madam President and members of the council. My name is Jeffrey Umana, and I am the access coordinator for Metro UCLA. The internal the internal representative of the ideas and the SIOC chairperson. I come before y'all remotely today to ask that you pass the resolution unanimously and withhold our student fees that are currently being mismanaged by the CPO. I am asking that you stand in solidarity with the Mother Organizations Coalition in defending our autonomy and authority as students in spaces that we created, we fund, and we run. As you all deliberate, I will move the SIOC to pass a memo of no confidence in CPO in which we explicitly express our lack of confidence in the CPO continuing to be the administrative designee for our project. We are acting tonight. I demand that the USAC act as well. It's time we demand and reclaim student power." And then I'm reading the fourth public comment. This one is anonymous, but it states, "As a 4-year recipient of retention services, I can confidently say that I would not have managed up UCLA without the support of SPEAR. The mismanagement of the CPO under its current leadership has has perverted the purpose of retention projects by subjecting student workers to unsafe conditions. I call on Assistant Vice Chancellor Mitchell, Vice Chancellor Student Affairs Monroe Gordon, and Chancellor Dean Block to act immediately, returning student agency to the student-initiated student-run project." Next, I'm reading public comment submitted by Ryan Factor from Someone Filipino and Someone Filipino Education and Retention and the Campus Retention Committee. It's linked at the words typed at the very bottom of this document, and it states, "The history of the United States is one of colonization. Every institution in this nation is fundamentally built upon the exploitation of certain communities for the benefit of others, and UCLA is no different. However, students of color have always been actively engaged in fighting against these systems of oppression. The history of organizing by students of color at UCLA is deeply rooted in the Mother Organization Coalition, a group of 10 organizations representing marginalized communities formed in order to advocate for equity in higher education. In the 1980s, when students of color, many from the Mother Organization, began to enter USAC, they began to notice that while students of color were being admitted to UCLA due to affirmative action, many of them were not graduating because they did not have the resources they needed to succeed. For example, at the time, only 22% of Black students would graduate within 5 years at UCLA.
Thus, in 1986, the USAC Financial Committee Chair, Bob Alvarez, refused to sign over the student and education membership fee, a referendum that funded AAP in an act of that would stand until 1988. In the creation of the Campus Detention Committee, or CRC, whose primary objective was to provide students of color with the resources they need to stay enrolled at UCLA. This committee would give birth to the organizations we now know as AFP, RAIN, META, COMETA, FEAR, and CFEAR. And 10 years later, in response to Proposition 209, which banned affirmative action, leading to a subsequent drop-off in minority enrollment, the student-initiated outreach committee known as SIOC was formed, whose purpose was to incentivize students of color to pursue higher education. These projects, these spaces were not given to us. We couldn't find safety. We couldn't find this in the university, so we organized. We protested, we fought, and we carved out our own spaces so we could thrive as communities. So we could heal, love, and fight for equity and higher education through the arms of access and retention. However, when the CPO, the entity that currently houses these projects, became departmentalized in 2002, student-led slowly began to fade. In 2008, with the appointment of Antonio Sandoval as director of CPO. This appointment would usher in a new era of the project characterized by student authority, consistent setbacks in operations of our project, and a culture of fear, dishonesty, and empowerment. For more than a decade, we have witnessed the resignation of several mother organization committees and project student leaders due to the toxic environment facilitated by CPO. We have been unable to look at the millions of dollars in student fees and a lack of cooperation from CPO administration. Our projects have seen countless delays in hiring and operations affecting students of color that we serve and causing burnout in our student workers. As the retention coordinator, Samahang Filipino, and a member of the Campus Retention Committee, I will not tolerate any more mistreatment from the community programs office. I stand in full solidarity with USAC as they attempt to retake our space and assert student empowerment. I would like to emphasize that my demands are no different from the demands of the student leaders that have come before me. For generations, we have been advocating for the well-being of our project and the safety of students of color. To demonstrate this point, I would like to end off this comment with a quote from J.P. Schumacher, the state project director from 2008 to 2012. It was heartbreaking to see our house burn down. We were raised in that house. I was raised by Kanais in that house, who let me know about myself in harsh ways and in kind ways. And it was hard to see that legacy and those values be stripped away by an insecure man. Thank you so much for letting me share this space with you. It's on the spot.
Okay, and then I'm going to put some other public comments. This is from someone who's from the pre-physician assistant at UCLA and other student clubs and boards. We also attached a letter that could come. After mentioning our letter, we vehemently disagree with the fees, 100 per student event, $395 per quarter package associated with utilizing classroom projectors beyond 6:30 p.m. Many organizations do not have the financial means to afford this fee that should be free and accessible. In addition, this policy does not offer any alternative projector rentals at a cheaper rate or funding options to afford the rates they have been implemented for a decade now. We'd like to raise this to the student body and would like the letter to be read aloud as public comment for all offices to be made aware of this issue. Please let us know if there's anything in the meantime, and we'll go Dear Audiovisual Services at UCLA. My name is Nina Doe, and I am the co-president of the Pre-Physician Assistant Club at UCLA. I'm writing to you regarding the 6:30 p.m. log and shut off of projectors campus-wide and the $100 fee per student event to utilize them alongside the classroom equipment. Many organizations on campus meet after 6:30 p.m. and need to utilize projectors to project PowerPoint slides for club operations for a streamlined and efficient meeting. On Tuesday, our club hosted a distinguished guest speaker who had prepared slides in advance for us to project, and when the club realized ABS had locked the projector and we were not able to use it, was, for a lack of better words, embarrassing. Even renting a projector from somewhere on campus was not an option to us by either our sole advisor or the newsletter during the lottery process of booking rooms for student boards. Moreover, ABS implementing a $100 fee per student event use does not promote equity among student organizations. Our club is not the only club that does not have the financial facilities to afford ABS's projector time at our weekly meetings for the entire academic year. Aside from being a student leader on campus, I speak on this as a student as well. It's unfathomable to attend an exam review session late in the evening with classmates and be unable to operate the projector for an efficient study session. UCLA prides itself on implementing and upholding true Bruin values that promote equity campus-wide. Placing a $100 fee for student organizations to utilize and operate projectors after 6:30 p.m. when most on-campus clubs meet is not equitable and does not take into consideration the smaller clubs who do not have the funding and capacity to do so. It is also unfair that clubs that meet before 6:30 are able to use the projector for free, while other clubs meeting after 6:30 p.m. would have to pay. On behalf of the many student organizations frustrated by this policy, I urge audiovisual services and the events office to drop the $100 fee and 6:30 p.m. campus-wide projector locking system and allow free 24/7 use of the in-classroom projectors. Yeah. And this is from the pre-position assistant club, the Life Science Student Association, the Students Organized for Syria club, the HIV Counseling and Testing Coalition, the Filipino Transfer Student Partnership Finance Coordinator, Filipinos for Community Health President, Omega Sigma Tau Sports and Social Chair, and Create Advisement and Training Honor Society, Create Medical Coordinator. And then I also think Angie has one to play out loud. Yeah.
Okay. I will say contingency programming has gotten a lot of requests for AV system. I have never seen that before too, so I thought that things were a little weird. And simply put, like, I fully support those organizations. A lot of them have applied to us for cross border to get projectors, but for our full school year, that's over $1,000 in projector fees. And as much as we're trying to fund that for like as many boards at a time, like that is simply not feasible in the long run, and that is not feasible for every spot out there. That is a lot that we know of contingency programming. So I don't know what council can do, but I do think that is an important issue. Plus have tried other methods such as like buying their own projectors and bringing that to classes. But again, that is a whole issue of equity. And just the fact that they are locked up after 6:30, I think, in most meetings do happen around 7 or 8 is a very big issue. Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's an issue that council members we can potentially talk about tackling. Great. Okay. Video.
Okay, yeah, video first.
Okay, can we play that video first? What?
Yeah.
student unions plan to move their student-initiated programs to the Black Resource Center. I was the first chair of the Campus Retention Committee. I was also chair of the ASU for 2 consecutive years. I was NOMO editor and a student worker in the Community Programs Office. I was awarded the Medal of Service by then USAC President Mark Polito. I'm not bragging. I just want you to know why my opinion is relevant. The current conflict saddens me because as a student, CPO was a refuge for me and many others. We jokingly called it the liberated zone. We saw CPO as a space that facilitated, fostered, and supported student empowerment. However, having said that, if CPO is no longer that space, then students have every right to move on. I stand in solidarity with ASU and other advocates of student empowerment in their education and campus life. Now, this is deja vu for me. 30 years ago, I played a critical role in the establishment of the first student-initiated retention program and the CRC. The guiding principles we operated from were community service, student advocacy, student involvement, and student empowerment. Initially, the student retention programs were under the purview of the College of Letters and Science, but that situation was untenable. LNS was not responsive to student advocacy, involvement, nor empowerment. Every step of the way, they impeded or undermined our efforts in the establishment and implementation of our programs. We actually had some allies and advocates in LNS, but from the perspective of their organizational culture, they were used to telling students what to do, how to do it, when to do it. They could only envision students in a child's place. They were hostile and annoyed by student needs and the demands of their representatives, particularly Black students and their representative organization, the African Student Union. The underlying fear was that we would set up another AEP, the stepchild they tolerated, resented, and manipulated. We decided to move from the College of Letters and Science to Student Affairs. Now, don't get me wrong. Student Affairs was also paternalistic, but it was a better fit. And organizationally, it was where student advocacy and representatives were based. And also our ally, CPO, was there. The move was a natural outgrowth of our sense of empowerment. We did not ask permission. We made it happen. We planned and we organized. This is an important point. Students and their representative organizations do not need someone's approval to leave CPO in search of greener pastures. The cost for students to be the boss has already been paid and is embedded in their very being. I personally sacrificed a lot to ensure this, as did many others before me and after. The irony is that at the time of the move, there was a plan underway to eliminate CPO. Replace it with, get this, another CRC, the Community Resource Center. In fact, this CRC was given space in the men's gym while dozens of student service organizations were crammed into cubicles in CPO. We needed more space. The Community Programs Office grew physically and influentially as a result of the presence of the retention programs and the advocacy, involvement, and empowerment of student representative organizations, particularly the ASU. And the threat of the bogus CRC faded and disappeared. In effect, our move to student affairs saved CPO from that very fate Let me be explicitly clear here. The ASU saved CPO. The irony cannot be overlooked. Talk about biting the hand that fed you. Everyone in leadership currently in CPO owes a debt of gratitude to ASU. Lastly, I want to say that for any student organization, any student government body, USAC, SIOC, the CRC, Campus Retention Committee, to be against the move to resituate the African Student Union's programs is a betrayal of their history, their constituency, and of their own governing body's principles, especially the CRC, which we set up to be the advocates for student representative organizations and their programs, not their overseers. No hard feelings to CPO. I sincerely wish the best for all parties involved. Good luck, and thanks for listening. Go Bruins.
To be lost on us because, as you all know, in CSU's persistent advocating for remote access, I would just like you all to know, and to UCLA administration, point out this moment of irony that anybody can do it, and hybrid learning and hybrid participation is valid, and it is possible. And USAC did it tonight, and although sure there may be some certain hoops to jump through, or certain kinks in technology and the services available, et cetera, if you as UCLA administration give professors and faculty the resources needed and the instructions needed to successfully have people participate in classes remotely and enable hybrid learning to this whole campus, it is definitely possible. It doesn't cost that much money, and yeah, I just wanted to pop in and say that today through this public comment. And USAC council members, thank you for all your solidarity with us in this fight so far. And just know that it is far from over. And I really just, I saw the news of this meeting was going to be hybrid. And I just wanted everybody to remember that as we go through this meeting tonight. That hybrid participation is valid and it is possible. Because USAC did it, why can't UCLA do it? All right, everyone, have a good meeting.
She's not here, but also very true. Okay. And do we have someone else? I think we have another hand member. Imani?
Good evening, everyone. Sorry about that. My internet connection is a little iffy right now. But my name is Imani Duncan, and I am the current ASU retention coordinator as well as the CRC vice chair. I'm going to keep it really brief because like everyone else has said, or everybody who's previously spoken, on these issues tonight have really hit the nail on the head. But just speaking as a current student and someone who's been in this space for many, many years at this point, just want to again emphasize and encourage you all to really just understand the gravity of all of these allegations brought forth. It's super disgusting and super disheartening to just witness as well as experience what's been going on. I have people on from general body members from ASU as well as just general students that have come into the space and have expressed to me their uncomfortability. I just, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, cut out for a second. The terrorization of students on behalf of just the general body is just a gross abuse of power on behalf of the CPO.
Imani, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys, but I don't know why it keeps cutting out. I'm just gonna actually type
it cuts out at times.
I apologize. I think I'm just gonna type my comment.
Okay, yeah, just go ahead and type and I'll read it when you're done. Thank you so much. She's typing.
So Grace, I think we could go forward.
Even if she wants to, can I read it after?
And then when she types it, we will voice it into public record now.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do that, Imani. Just whenever you're ready, just type it in the chat and I'll make sure I read it out.
And we'll pause and then read it and then.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Yes, go ahead and take your time. Great. Do I close public comment then? Can I close it?
We will close public comment.
Okay. And with that, I move to close public comment at 8:33 p.m. Moving straight to funding, capital contingency?
Yes, okay, hello. I'll try to keep this short. Capital contingency, I'm representing the allocations from last week because we forgot to account for taxes, so I reallocated to account for taxes. So now it's $3,170 to create that entity, and I dropped the rule form in the chat. Another question.
Can I get a motion, please?
I move to allocate 3,170 to 3 USAC entities.
A second.
Jane motions, passes seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, and by a vote of 13 to 0 to 0, the motion passes, and capital efficiency is approved. Great, moving on to efficiency programming. Jenny?
Okay, awesome. It feels weird to do it in person. But it's good to meet all of you. This is the contingency programming allocation. It is $8,072.78 to 20 non-USAC entities and 1 USAC entity. Yeah. And the very first application on there is actually for chapter.
Can I get a motion, please?
Allocate the $8,072.78 entities and 1 USAC.
Can I get a second?
I second.
So motions or men seconds, all in favor, please raise your hands. By a vote of 13 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and contingency programming is approved. SFS?
This week, SFS allocations are for 2 non-CSC organizations for a total of $1,500.
Thank you so much, Domina. Okay. Is there any opposition? If not, thank you so much. Moving straight to SWC programming fund.
So we allocated $1,155 to 3 non-USAC entities.
Is there any opposition? Okay, great. Moving straight on to AAC travel mini grant. Ash?
Hi, yes. We awarded $350 to 1 USAC entity.
Okay. Any opposition? Great. Art? Special presentation appointment. Okay, great. Moving straight into appointments. We have Lucy for FICOM general member. Do you want to go ahead?
Should I introduce her?
Yeah.
So hi everyone. My name is Jenny. You do not remember the Zoom. But we recently did recruitment for new FICOM members, and we interviewed 10 people, and we got this meeting. Lucy's the first year comp bio major. Although she's bio, she's interested in finance, and she was super open to joining our club. She demonstrated a lot of good qualities during her interview, and we all really loved her.
Awesome. So I guess you would give a 1-minute intro, and then you have a Q&A period, and then you give your closing statement. And you can sit down, like, it's chill vibe, so you don't gotta worry about yeah, so whatever you want to do. Yeah, anything you want. So yeah, you're free to give your opening statement whenever you're ready.
Hello everyone. I'm Lisa, and I'm Lucy Smith, and I'm the first student from the Bay Area. I'm majoring in computational biology in high school, I was able to explore biology and medicine in lots of classes. And during the summers, I spent time at the School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, and did a clinical last exchange from the school's internship where I was able to study medicine, and I really fell in love with that. So I hope to pursue that in the future. But I really want to get involved in finance because I've always been interested in finance. And finance and econ have many intersections with medicine. For example, running a private practice or even health disparities in the medicine that you need to look at and incorporate a lot of aspects of finance. Moreover, I was heavily involved in student government in school, where I was the assistant student government vice president, and in that, I worked with my cabinet to plan all school-wide events and hosted a platform for all clubs to raise funds for their own activities, and I saw that FICOM had a similar purpose in that they're making sure that as many activities and events can be funded as possible. And I knew that I would be able to bring my prior experience to Farmont as well as learn some motion. It's such a different student body. It's much larger, more diverse, and there's so many different student groups that we can run. So I wanted to expand on my high school experience as well as learn more about the so, yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Lucy, it's okay. Do you mind sitting in that chair? The mic can hear you better, so folks on Zoom can hear you better. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
I know it's super awkward. I'm sorry.
You're doing great though.
You can sit farther so everyone can see.
Yeah.
They don't have to be that close.
Oh, sorry.
You're doing great.
Choice of hybrid.
Okay.
You're also our first in-person appointee for many years, so.
We got this though.
Yeah.
Okay, so council members, does anyone have any questions on Zoom? Okay. Emily?
Thanks for being here. So given that, like we're coming off of the pandemic 2 years of that, many students who work in leadership positions in student boards have less knowledge of like how to apply for funding and like what counts and like what things they can apply to. So what are your plans for reaching out to as many students as you can? Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that we can utilize our social media more in order to advertise, because we have a lot of different, we host a lot of different events in order to educate student groups about how they can get funding. For example, every member of FICOM is required to host an hour of office hours every week. So making sure that students know that they can come to these office hours to ask any questions that they want. We can help them improve their application and make sure that they get as much funding as possible. And there's also panels hosted by FICOM, and so just making sure that we are advertising these through maybe blog and social media, and reaching out to certain student organizations who might not know about the funding processes would be a goal for this year.
Hi, it's so good to see you here. I really appreciate all the experiences you shared with sort of, your favorite reference mine, and I was wondering if you would just share one experience that you've had that has really solidified for you why FICOM is important to you and why it's something you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. So during high school, I was heavily involved in a leadership program, and part of that, I was the commission head for a club or a commission in our class called Health and Wellness. And so something that we did was every month we would plan events to promote the physical and mental well-being of students on campus. And through that, we needed a lot of funds. And I realized how important it is for organizations to receive funding in order to plan events that are impactful to the student body. And so I saw that FICOM, in student government, what we did was we created a platform for clubs to raise funds for their events. And I saw that FICOM was directly allocating money to organizations in order to allow these events to happen. And so I thought I'd be able to kind of see another side of how events can be executed through funding, different from like kind of creating that platform for them to raise funds. And so I thought just being just having a more direct impact and being able to interact with these organizations on a one-on-one kind of interaction was something that really resonated with me. And so as the commission head of this group on campus, I planned an event called Continue, and it was to raise awareness for suicide prevention. And through that, we had to use a lot of funds to order tattoos and create designs. And so these events kind of persisted throughout the year, and we needed a lot of materials in order to kind of gain the attention from the student body. And just this experience helped me realize from both the side of associate student body and also this commission head, realize how student organizations do need funding and access to materials in order to create this impact on the school community. And I thought that FICOM does a really good job of making sure that they're able to reach as many students on campus as possible through a viewpoint neutral kind of concept. And so I really wanted to do it.
Sarah? I think there's a change to the website. Can you tell us about the values or criteria that are important to you when evaluating applications?
For sure. I think the most important thing for me when viewing an application probably is keeping an open mind and making sure that I'm consistent when I'm reviewing these applications. So what I said earlier about being viewpoint neutral, is just making sure that my personal biases or my involvements don't get in the way of me reading applications and recommending funding. So I want to make sure that as long as this event has a purpose, it will serve some sort of benefit to any amount of students, even if it's just one. I will make sure that I can recommend as much funding as possible. And so the other thing is just consistency. I want to make sure that when I'm doing all these applications, I'm keeping a consistent grading kind of structure for each of them to make sure that I am being neutral when I'm doing.
What was that? I just walked in. Was that a closing statement?
No.
Oh, okay. Do any other council members have any questions? If not, you are free to give your closing statement.
So thank you guys so much. I'm really excited for this opportunity, just to be able to serve such a large and diverse student body. I'm really excited to expand on my past student government experiences in high school. I know that I have so much to learn from this because it's a completely new environment, and I know that we have to be adaptable due to kind of this hybrid space in COVID. So I'm very excited to work with FICOM and the entire USAC organization in order to make this school year as great as it can be, and to reach as many students as possible, making sure that we are fostering an inclusive environment.
Thank you. Art?
I would say zero positive recommendations for Lucy as FICOM general member, as she demonstrated she was just very determined to learn more about finance, as she explained like how being pre-med can like feel like mixed with finance. So we thought that was really cool. And then also her plans and her vision to expand transparency in FICOM.
Any comments from council members?
Yeah, I just wanted to share the upcoming art interview as well. That I really appreciated the commitment to advertising funding for transfer students and some of them so that they understand how to apply for funding, as well as understanding how important events and retreats and those funding things are for transfer students to be included. I think that's something that I really value.
Awesome. Any other comments? Concerns? If not, can I get a motion, please?
I move to appoint Lucy Yin to the as a FICOM general member.
Can I get a second? If my motion's 2 seconds, all in favor, please raise your hands. By a vote of 13 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and Lucy is appointed. Congratulations, Lucy. We look forward to working with you this year. Great. Next up, we have Dane.
Hello, Dane. He's also first year econ and major. And we really love Dane and the biggest thing about him was just his enthusiasm. Even at the first year, we really came in ready to like get to know campus, get to know UCLA, and showed a lot of interest in wondering finance. So
we're really excited to see a lot of potential, and hopefully some ambitious violence, for our team.
Sorry.
We're doing this.
Hey guys, my name is Dane Elliott. I'm a first year student who is a prospective double major in Econ and Korean. And one thing about me is I love student government. In high school, some of my biggest, my happiest moments were spent in student council, where I could visibly see the difference that I was making in my community. One of my proudest moments was when I was able to open our high school's first all-gender restroom on campus. And that I felt was a way to give back to my own queer community, but also realize that I was helping students on campus make a home in a place that could be deemed unconventional, because I did come from a very conservative community, and so those students did feel kind of isolated on campus. And so I want to really continue that mission here in USAC and at UCLA to make students feel more included and accepted in this community. And I will strive to do that during the course of my next 4 years.
Awesome, thank you so much. Questions from council members?
Yes.
Hi, so nice to see you again. My question is, how do you plan on using your experience in high school, well-accomplished student government experiences? How do you plan on transferring that to UCLA and the Fashion Committee?
Yes, so in high school, one of the projects that I headed was I headed our prom committee, and I headed a lot of events that required budgeting and involved a lot of finance. And so coming into FICOM and being able to hold office hours and hold events in FICOM where we increase transparency to students, like with our FICOM panels, that goal will be reflected in like having to be transparent to my high school student body, where I inform them of the different events and the different allocations we are making to our prom. And so I believe that those events will help me strengthen my experiences here, while I increase transparency to various student groups who apply for contingency funding.
Awesome. Any other questions? Kate?
Hi, nice to meet you. So I guess something that I ask is what is something that you would be excited for being on FICOM, and what is something that you would like to work on within FICOM as a community member?
Yes, so one thing I'm really excited about as a member in FICOM is to learn about the various events that are taking place on campus. I've already had a chance to read through some applications, and it's really interesting to be more cognizant of the different cultural events and just events that clubs are holding on campus, and learn about the different clubs on campus. And I'm really excited about learning more about these various clubs. One thing, as a FICOM member, I would like to improve is our transparency with allowing groups to know that they can apply to contingency funding. I think it's very important that every cultural group and every group here on campus knows about the contingency fund and has means to access it. So I would really like to increase that transparency.
Awesome. Any other questions from council members?
I don't know if you can see me.
I'm sorry. Never mind.
A little angle here. Hi, Dave. Good to see you. I was wondering if you could articulate your understanding of how you would support the transfer community and why funding for transfer is so possible.
Yes, for sure. So when transfer communities, they come into UCLA, it can oftentimes feel like isolating because you're coming in later than other students who have had a chance to really gain a structural understanding of UCLA. And as a FICOM member, it's very important that we support transfer students in the event that they hold to bring transfer students together here on campus and find a community. So I will strive to read through the applications and viewpoint neutral, of course, but really take into consideration groups that are trying to bring together a community on campus that may feel isolated at times.
Any questions from council members? Cool. You're free to give your closing statement.
Yes, so I really appreciate you guys taking the time to interview me today. I really love student council, and I really hope that I could bring my analytical skills and my love for communicating with other individuals to the FICOM community. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Art?
Art,
with a 0 to 3 to 0, no recommendation. This no recommendation means that we just wanted to hear more about your like tangible goals and plans to execute like your passion for Python and all of that. And then after the council like interview, I do feel more comfortable moving forward with being as a Python panel member because you gave very like specific transparency plans and also just like hearing me talk, I feel like you like are able to like just learn a lot from Python and really seem passionate about it.
Yeah, I love your energy for one. I think you have like a very like positive, infectious energy, which is really awesome. I also like the fact that like how you answer the student government question. I think student government in high school is also like very relevant experience. So I like the fact that you have a concrete example of like what you did in high school student government in terms of increasing transparency. We'll seek to increase transparency here. So yeah, I really appreciate that answer.
I also just want to echo my fellow heart members that I did appreciate that specificity came with a high school experience. And I think that one of the things that I also really appreciate is a good openness to that shared identity as well, because I do think that representation does matter and having students in those spaces with their identities in spaces like that one is something that's important. I think that one of the reasons why I personally noted a recommendation was a lack of specificity around supporting transfer students. And acknowledging that there can be support around the transfer community outside of the, just reading the applications themselves. When in FICOM we don't really have a strong transfer voice, I think there's support for those who are part of FICOM to really understand how to support transfers, and that is something that's articulated by other members of ICOM in terms of like outreach, for example, and making sure that transfer organizations are specifically outreach to. Those are some of the types of ways that students can actually know that this is from addition to just the applications being read. But I see, again, I also like as I said, really love your energy and like the openness to have to learn. And I'm comfortable moving forward. I think I would just really appreciate a lot of intentionality around learning about the transfer community and what those sort of community conditions are outside of just like the lack of a sense of belonging, and then seeing what other ways outside of just reading applications and
Awesome. Great. Can I get a motion, please?
I move to appoint Dean Elliott to the FICOM for next meeting.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, motions, prompt seconds. All in favor, please raise your hand. I don't know if y'all heard us, Haley, and cool. By a vote of 14 to 0 to 0, the motion passes and Dane is appointed to FICOM General Officer. Congratulations, Dane. Okay, great. Did Imani ever send her public comment in the chat? Question mark. Imani? She didn't, right?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I haven't sent it yet.
Wait, what? Wait, Imani, was that you?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I haven't sent it yet, no. So
Oh,
sorry.
you haven't sent it yet? Okay, no worries. Go ahead and take your time. I'll go ahead and get started with my office report. This week we published our first issue of Reason Business, kind of like a take on like notes from Naomi, but just like the most important meetings I guess I've been in attendance to this quarter. Congressional Advisory Board made some more progress with it, and we finally got our communication linked up with all of the mother organizations that we wanted to. Our Student Advocate Board is scheduled to have another training where they can meet with Dean Rash, and our Future Student Leaders of Color Conference has made progress on organizing workshops, panels, getting meal vouchers and care packages for the upcoming conference next quarter. And yeah, that is all for my office. IDP?
From the IVP office tomorrow, we have an IVP after educational workshop. The topic is supporting survivors as student leaders, and that's tomorrow from 6 to 7 p.m. And you can register. I wrote that because we thought I put on things like some tomorrow we also have a USAC IDP X5 Con planning panel with Jenny, and that's tomorrow from 7 to 8 p.m. And then in terms of like student organizations facing issues of accessibility with UCLA audio visual services and UCLA event office, the letter that was also presented today was sent to me. And so I'm in the process of meeting with my full advisors to discuss this further. And I'm aware that like other, like, I think like full advisors are working on that. So I'm hoping to get in touch with them and AES to expand accessibility when it comes to this. And if any other council members are interested, please let me know and then we can like schedule a meeting. I met with Hannah April from Vegas Index and the USAC Coalition, and we just talked about like plans and the work from the IVP office in terms of abolition. And if any other like council members want to be involved with like abolition, please let me know because we can like start meeting with them, I think every other week. Okay, that's for me, and then I'll pass it off to Sarah.
For most regular Tuesday and so the Sunday, the Tuesday held its November board meeting. I'd like to just share some updates from our course campaign. The campaign requires some form of legislative action. We've been able to introduce legislation for 2 out of 3 of them to the appropriate bodies. Starting with the choir, we reached a compromise budget proposal for free mental products across the UC at $1.5 million. This proposal has been pitched to the UC Office of the President, and we are currently waiting to hear back. As for UC Legal, we're working on a non-instructional day, just so that students can take like election day to get a vote for their classes. So we've established like committees and we together to get some numbers or the cost assessment to see what the daily cost of loss and productivity is for staff and faculty. And we've heard back that when we did have a non-instructional election day, we have to add another day of instruction in order for the UCs to maintain foundation. And students living in housing would have to build for an extra day of housing. So we're kind of working to see what a workaround would be for possibly using this classroom now that we have that like hybrid Zoom infrastructure going. And so right now we're at a point where we're trying to define what asynchronous means and what that would look like at HPC. As for funding, you see Congress is currently considering a $550 increase. Obviously, this ask is not at the level of the Board of Health, but we're still working on it. And then as for racial justice now, all the campuses are currently evaluating the implementation of the proposal that was put forward by President Drake and Wildfire. Also working on gathering testimonials and trying to plan for a Black Law Day, which is very exciting. And then all the UCs are working to support the UCA to strengthen all the organizing and everything there. Moving on to my office, we have a voter registration event this week on Thursday. So we will be on Brutal Walk from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at United Plaza from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and at Sunset Village Plaza from 7 to 9 p.m. as well. Shout out to our friends at Helper, Shared Voters Project. Will be helping us table for that event. And then some happy news, UCLA was actually honored as the most improved voter turnout award in the 2021 All-In Award. So 76.6% of our students turned out to vote, which is 24.7% higher than in 2016, and almost 90% of all the registered voters at UCLA voted in 2020, and that is more than 20% more than the average rate of voting for similar institutions, which is 66%. The really awesome stuff, and hopefully through our registration event, we'll be able to get more people registered and ready to go for all the important elections that we have coming up in 2022.
And
Hi, everyone. Please let me know if you can't hear me. But my Disability Justice and Education Director recently attended the UC Access Now conference to learn more about their project and potential ways that AAC can get involved. So we're hoping to support their accessibility project and collaborate on a campaign with them. And my director is also getting feedback from disabled students through our rolling feedback form that's posted on our Instagram regarding how AAC can best support them in advocating for their needs. My Transparency and Accountability team just dropped an anonymous feedback form, and they're currently working on one for the Academic Senate so that students can ask questions and share concerns or thoughts about anything related to academics, AAC, or the Academic Senate to better inform our advocacy efforts. And then my Retention First team just recently finished sending out allocation emails for Books for Bruins Awards, and they're working on sending over the rec forms to ASUCLA. They're also working with my SAOC appointment to support her with giving trainings to student org about the Mother Org, Coalition, and retention projects. And then my PR team is working with UCLA Radio to start our podcast to discuss topics within UCLA academics, to AAC, to Senate, to also like global issues of academic inequity and inaccessibility. So our first podcast will be released soon. And then as for my execs, they are working on putting on our fall counseling quarterly event in collaboration with the counseling department. And they're also working on a de-stressing event for finals in collaboration with the IVP office. And then as for myself, I had a meeting with some student leaders from DSU to discuss the creation of a new ASL major and minor. So we've been working on that. And then I also attended the UGC meeting on Friday. We discussed extending the Pass No Pass deadline to week 9 for winter quarter, and also keeping it at week 9 for future quarters post-pandemic as well. And then I will be attending a meeting with UGC next Monday to advocate for more hybrid and live stream courses for winter quarter. But in the meantime, I'm setting up meetings with different student groups and different communities for student input to share about their experiences with hybrid learning during that meeting. But yeah, that's basically it for my office. Apologies for not being there in person. I have the flu, but sending all my love.
thank you so much, and great work as always. Okay, admin reps, Jessica?
She'll be out.
Yes, Jessica is on maternity leave. Yeah, George.
Hi everyone. This is George. No big updates compared to the last 2 weeks. Just that UCLA Black Alumni Association had this virtual meeting event this Thursday called Ferguson Rising about Northern Brown the Ferguson police. And the director is also a alum of UCLA, maybe writing such a commentary afterwards too. And we don't alumni associations, I think anyhow, you made a star called World. You want to go here? No? Nothing else? No? Okay. World Making Workshop on the 5th of December, which is today's Sunday. So I'll send you all those dates afterwards. I'm here. Wow.
Josh?
No updates for me, just make sure you're taking care of yourself for week 8. It's nice to see you people in person. for those that are in person. It's nice to see you all. Just take care of yourself. Next week, short week. Then 2 weeks, and then we're done. Nice long break, so enjoy it. Yeah.
Orlando?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I hope you all are doing well, and I have to echo what Josh says. I don't have an update, but as the holidays come up, I hope you enjoy your time off with your friends and loved ones.
Thank you, Orlando. Fernando?
Hi everyone, I'm Fernando. Nice to meet all of you in person. I have 2 updates. The first update is if you need a parking permit for winter quarter, I put the Google form on Slack already, so everyone can have access to that. There are limited spaces and it's shared with GSA, so the sooner the better. Then my second update is I know that a lot of you got, or some of you got capital contingency, so if you need stuff delivered to Ackerman or Kirkhoff, please email me before buying any of the items so you can coordinate and not have the items stuck on the loading dock. And I just want it to be a smooth process so you guys can have your stuff as soon as possible. That is all.
Awesome. And Patty?
Hi everyone, so good to see you all today. Just a couple updates. We have a really fun program tomorrow in the Kirkhoff Grand Salon. We're partnering with Unicamp, and we're doing a little bit of a paint and sip, coffee, and then also painting little coasters, like soft coasters. So definitely come out if you want some relaxing between 11 and 2. It's kind of some fun craft, part of our Wellness Wednesday. And then we are hosting another watch party for a tailgate watch party for the UCLA versus USC on Saturday in our big TV room on A-level Ackerman. So it should be fun, so come on out. We had a great time last week at basketball watch party in the ballroom. We had 350 people come out to cheer on their Bruins and give out tons of prizes and raffles and hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patty. Great, not old business, new business. FSU?
Me and Casa submitted a bylaw revision. I don't know if it's linked in the.
Oh, it's not.
I don't think
So I'm within that.
Yeah. Okay, so then.
We have to. Oh, okay, we have to strike it. Awesome. So we're going to move straight into a resolution detailing student response to administrative overstepping of student-initiated student-run projects. I'm really excited about this because this has been quite a project that I've been tackling this year. So, okay, I'm going to read it off just so it goes on public record, and y'all can feel free to follow along because it is linked on the agenda. So, a resolution detailing student response to administrative overstepping of student-initiated student-run projects. Sponsors are myself, Cassandra, Angie, Haley, Thomas, and Jay. Whereas the student education membership fee was passed in 1969 by the first Chicano USAC president, Rosalio Munoz, to fund the Educational Opportunities Program. Whereas following the merger between the Educational Opportunities Program and the High Potential Program in 1971 to create the Academic Advancement Program, the SEMF monies were directed to AAP. Whereas in 1986, Finance Committee Chair Bob Alvarez, at the request of USAC President Dean Alvarez, withheld the SEMF monies from AAP due to student discontent and protest. Whereas in 1988, the Campus Retention Committee was established using the SEMF monies that had been withheld for the prior 3 years, commemorated in the signing of the first Statement of Understanding. Whereas in 1990, the service referendum was passed by the student body to increase funding for the Campus Retention Committee, with no funds being directed to the Community Programs Office. Whereas in 1992, following lengthy negotiations to the SOU for the CRC. Lengthy negotiations, the SOU for the CRC was revised and adopted by the Campus Retention Committee. Whereas in 1993, the Academic Success Referendum was passed by the student body to increase funds specifically to the Campus Retention Committee, with no funds being directed to the Community Programs Office. Whereas in 1997, the SOU for the CRC was once again renegotiated and amended by the Campus Retention Committee. Whereas in 1999, following the effects of Proposition 209 and UC Regents Standing Policy 1 and Standing Policy 2 on students of color enrollment across the UCs, the Student-Initiated Outreach Committee was created through the passage of the CARE referendum. The CARE referendum also increased funding to the Campus Retention Committee. Whereas in 2000, the Student Programs, Activities, and Resource Complex referendum was passed by the student body to fund the renovation of what was then known as the men's gym and what is now known as the Student Activity Center, while also establishing a majority board of governors whose 4 undergraduate representatives are to be appointed entirely by USAC. Whereas in 2002, the SOU for the CRC was renegotiated and amended for the last time, formalizing the current composition of the Campus Retention Committee. Whereas in 2004, the student body passed Promoting Understanding and Learning Through Service and Education, PULSE, referendum to increase funding specifically to the Campus Retention Committee and Student-Initiated Outreach Committee. Whereas in 2009, the Practicing Leadership and Empowerment to Develop Growth Through Education pledge referendum was passed by the student body to increase funding specifically to the Campus Retention Committee and the Student-Initiated Outreach Committee. Whereas in 2016, the Social Justice Referendum was passed by the student body to increase funding specifically to the Campus Retention Committee and the Student-Initiated Outreach Committee, and with the Community Programs Office also receiving funding separate from the committee. Whereas the various referendums mentioned have no indication of the funding going to or being managed by the Community Programs Office in any way whatsoever. All funding is specifically dictated to go directly to the Campus Retention Committee and the Student-Initiated Outreach Committee and the Community Programs Office, having their own separate source of funding intended to fulfill department needs. Whereas for the 2021-2022 academic year, the Campus Retention Committee receives $1,486,614.56 in student fees. Whereas for the 2021-2022 academic year, the Student-Initiated Outreach Committee receives $1,353,797.46 in student fees. Whereas on October 30th, 2018, current CPO Human Resources Analyst Richard White used the derogatory word homosexuals when referring to LGBTQ+ USAC council members and students during his appointment interview for USA Elections Board Chair. Whereas on November 12th, 2019, the 2019-2020 USAC sent formal letters to both the Campus Retention Committee and the Student-Initiated Outreach Committee, requesting the production of budget reviews for the 3 prior academic years to be received and presented at the USAC meeting by January 2020. Whereas the administrative representatives selected by the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs for the CRC and SIOC on the day of their scheduled presentations let the 2019-2020 USAC know they needed more time to produce the documents and never corresponded afterwards. Whereas the 2019-2020 USAC appointed students to the SACFOG as the CRC, SIOC, and SIPOSA representatives due to not having received recommendations from the committees. Whereas on March 3rd, 2020, the 2019-2020 USAC signed onto and unanimously endorsed a letter written by student organizations with access and retention projects demanding for the fulfillment of the requests made by USAC, as well as demanding for the resignation of CPO administrators that failed to comply with these demands. Whereas on March 10th, 2020, the 2019-2020 USAC voted to withhold the monies to the CRC and SIOC until CPO administration provided the 3-year budget reports that had been requested. Whereas on March 12, 2020, the 2019-2020 USAC received information from the Assistant Vice Chancellor of Campus Life, Mr. Luca, that were classified as budget reports, therefore causing the release of monies by ASUCLA to the CPO without USAC's explicit authorization. Whereas at the April 7th, 2020 USAC meeting, the USAC deemed the budget reports to be inadequate and closer related to budget reports due to having large categorical expenditures and no itemized expenses. The USAC therefore moved to ask supplemental questions to ABC DeLuca concerning the information that had been sent. Whereas at the April 14th, 2020 USAC meeting, ABC DeLuca committed to posting the annual budget reports online to be accessible to all students, as well as committing to creating a committee composed of various entities and stakeholders to reevaluate the CRC and SIOC SOUs, even though this was never one of the central asks of the USAC at the time. Whereas at the April 28th, 2020 USAC meeting, Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs Monroe Gordon committed to provide memorandums that had been passed by the past CRC and SIOC committees that alter the structure of the committee, as well as committed to providing the regular budget reports by the following fall quarter for the incoming USAC, as required by each SOU. Whereas the memorandums previously mentioned were centered around permanentizing certain aspects of the CRC and SIOC budgets, which the USAC deemed to be fundamentally changing the structure of each committee, and therefore a change that necessitated being agreed upon by USAC at the time per the statements of understanding, which never occurred. Whereas the commitments made by Vice Chancellor Monroe Gordon as of the passing of this resolution have yet to be fulfilled, with no memorandums being produced and no line item budget reports being presented by either the CRC or SIOC at a USAC meeting. Whereas on March 4th, 2021, a majority of the mother organization sent a letter to UCLA administration outlining the egregious hiring practices by the CPO, leading to Samahang Filipinos Retention Project Sphere and Vietnamese Student Union's Retention Project CPIR to be without a full-time project coordinator for the entire year. Whereas in the same letter, the MOs demanded multiple items to be fulfilled, including complete budgetary breakdowns of the financial expenditures for the CRC and SIOC. A committee composed of various stakeholders in the CRC and SIOC to review and investigate the SOUs for each committee, formally limiting CPO's administration's power to pure administrative tasks and no decision-making in the hiring process for the project, as well as giving the MOs power to pick administrative representatives for the committees and have annual performance reviews of CPO administrators. Whereas on May 24, 2021, all 9 mother organizations sent a letter to UCLA administration outlining the administration's failure to appropriately respond to the demands on the March 4, 2021 letter, as well as the toxic and hostile environment that had led to students being gaslit, bullied, and feeling unsafe while engaging in their official capacity as student leaders and project staff members. Whereas on the same day, the mother organizations held a protest demanding accountability and action to be taken by Student Affairs Administration, including the immediate resignation of CPO administrators who have perpetuated this harm for well over a decade, remove the CPO as the official Student Affairs assignee to the CRC and the SIOC, and admittance by the UCLA administration that they have contributed to the harm faced by students. Whereas on June 19th, 2021, Samahang Filipino released a letter outlining the CPO and UCLA Student Affairs publishing job postings for the CRC and SIOC projects without their explicit consent of the projects, thereby violating the SOUs for each committee. Whereas the CPO has multiple times enforced an unfair and unsanctioned hiring freeze on the CRC and SIOC projects that have caused delays to multiple projects and led to services being disrupted. Therefore, let it be resolved that the USAC stands with the mother organizations and students demanding that CPO and Student Affairs Administration to be held accountable for the gross mistreatment of students within the CPO, the creation and allowing the continuation of toxic work environment, and failure to provide transparency regarding the usage of fees, with this accountability being actions including not limited to the immediate firing of all CPO staff members that have contributed to this harm, and the immediate administrative and physical rehousing of ASP and SHAPE. Further, let it be resolved that the USAC has no confidence in the CPO to serve as a student affairs appointed designee as the administrative oversight department for the CRC and SIOC. Further, let it be resolved that the USAC, upon consultation and approval of the mother organizations, commits to withhold monies from being transferred to the CPO until previously mentioned demands of the mother organizations are fulfilled, and another vote is taken at a USAC meeting to release the checks to the CPO or another entity determined by the mother organizations. Further, let it be resolved that the USAC commits to have CRC and SIOC project staff paid through student government accounting or other suitable alternatives while monies are withheld from the CPO in order to not disrupt the important services provided by the projects and the communities they serve. Further, let it be resolved that the USAC stands with the CRC and SIOC demanding that there be no hiring delays or freezes as a form of retaliation by the CPO administration, as has been in the case multiple times over the years as iterated in letters written by the MOs above. Further, let it be resolved that the USAC stands with the CRC and SIOC in their abolishing the memorandums that permanentize portions of their budgets that were passed in the 2013-2014 and 2011-2012/2017 academic years for the CRC and SIOC, respectively, neither of which were taken to USAC for final approval as mandated in the SOUs for each committee. Further, let it be resolved that the USAC demands for the immediate removal of all CPO and student affairs administration that have contributed to the mistreatment of students and created a hostile and unsafe work environment for well over a decade in the CPO space. Let it finally be resolved that the USAC reaffirms their commitment to unilaterally support student-initiated, student-run efforts led by the Mother Organizations Coalition to continue meeting the access and retention needs of their communities while still struggling against UCLA and CPO administration. Questions, comments, concerns?
I just wanted to say, like, thank you all so much for writing such a but thank you all so much for writing such a detail-oriented, comprehensive resolution. Like, I think this is probably one of the most impactful resolutions to date for our council. I'm just really mad. There's just something about reading through so many pages of blatant disrespect and violence to marginalized students. And when I think of retention, I think of in my capacity as a Black student, I think of Black students, and I'm mad. I'm just really upset. I know I wouldn't be at UCLA or on council without ASP, so I'm just really upset, and I'm just really annoyed. And I really appreciate you all for writing such a beautiful resolution. Thank you guys so much for your time and research. I really appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of people do too. So, thank you all.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something, and just a comment. I am so honored to have my name on this resolution, and I just want to say thank you to Breeze and folks who wrote this resolution and spent so much time on it. Would not be possible. And also want to thank all of the student leaders that have paved the way, continuing to do it, this legacy and the legacy of fighting against administration before us, and it's going to continue after us, but we are able to have the ability to fight back right now because people before us did. And some of them came to council tonight to just talk about everything, and I think we owe it to them to take back what they like what they wanted, like originally wanted for us, and we want this for us. So I think it's just so important. And retention as a Black student first, as a Black person first, retention is so important for the Black community. And thank you so much to Simone, the ASU chair. I cannot say it enough, and all of your labor and the labor of all of the other student leaders as well. I especially wanted to shout out ASU and Simone, because you have been, I've seen how much you've been putting into this, and everything that all of the students have been going through at the hands of administrators that you pay to have a job is absolutely ridiculous. And like, when I first heard about everything about CPO a few years ago, and still now, and we're still fighting, but it's never over, and we're gonna give them hell this year. So yeah, I'm in full support of this resolution, and also so many administrators should step down, should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. And for administrators, whether you are the ones committing this, if you are committing it or allowing it to continue to happen, you are just as guilty, and you should also step down. You have no business in your position, because you are supposed to be working for us, not against us. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Never mind. Oh, hi, George.
Just wanted to say a couple of things as someone who worked for space in one of the outreach projects in the SIOC. I would have come to UCLA. They went to my high school back in 2004. I learned about SATs and all that good stuff to get into college in the first place. And then being a volunteer staff member at space, kind of seeing what the CPO was supposed to be about a place of empowerment, student-run, student-initiated projects run by and for students. And then lastly, when I became a project director for space from 2014 to 2017, and I'm not project director anymore, called project director anyway. But anyways, aside from that tangent, it is really heading hard to kind of be hearing all of the comments from alumni and students, because as someone who worked there for those 3 years, I can tell you that in so many, and it's hard to articulate the type of toxicity that was being developed during that time, and it's still sad to see that things have gotten worse after I left. My role of a project director at the time was to do good work and get students, into college, and to make sure that the staff focused on that. And it was hard to focus on that work when myself and staff had to deal with a lot of the becoming even nauseous that people had mentioned earlier, that it was about the disrespect and hostility that we were going through. And I say that just as a personal perspective, right? I'm saying that not as a representative of the alumni association. And lastly, what I want to say too is that, I'm very proud of the power that y'all have used. This is your power, this is your right. You do what you need to do to make sure that things are right for our students who are heavily impacted. And I just wanted to say that. So thanks again, everyone, for amazing work that y'all are doing.
Awesome. Does anyone have any other comments, questions? Okay, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to also add, like, just hearing all of this is making me emotional as well. So I'm sorry if I sound pretty weird, but I just first wanted to thank like everyone who worked on this, especially like the mother organizations, because honestly, like as you all probably know, I was involved with someone on Filipino, and these like MOs, like these spaces are not just like for retention, for access, it's also like a home for a lot of people. And so that's why I feel like we need to like support this so much, because this has been going on for so many years. Like it's not just a thing that was just brought up like last year or right now. It's been like literally decades of this like treatment. And like it's not just like misusing the funds at this point, like with CPO, they're like literally mistreating students and like making them feel unsafe. And so that's why like it's especially important that like we pass this, we support this and everything, because at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a student-run space, and we deserve all the self-autonomy to run these organizations that people rely on and that people call like their home.
Does anyone have any, I'll go ahead and say something real quick. I just really want to thank, I guess, like everyone that has like helped me in like figuring all of this out this past year. And I really want to thank my bestie. She's not here right now. She's like fucking shit up in the SIOC space right now. But Simone has like become one of my closest friends this past year, and just doing all this advocacy and continually inspiring. I know myself, but I feel like everyone that works with her, she's been amazing in advocating and creating a good space on campus. So I feel like this year we're really gonna have the opportunity to do good and be led by these mother organizations if we continue to do our jobs as USAC council members. So I'm really excited for what the future can hold in this space. And I really just want to thank our predecessors who really paved the way every step of the way to give us this voice and give us this platform. You know, a lot of us on this board sit here, you know, as like people of color, and like a lot of this would not be possible if it weren't that, you know, students directly from these mother organizations paved the way so that we can be in these positions of leadership at the #1 public university. So yeah. Okay, so to be clear, we USAC are voting on all demands and matters contained in this resolution to call for the firing of CPO senior administration, to rehouse ASU projects, and to withhold checks until a USAC vote otherwise authorizes. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve, or I move to approve a resolution detailing student responses to administrative overstepping of student misuse to grant projects.
And everything else open.
So, and to rehouse ASU's projects.
Call for the firing of CPO administration.
Call for the firing of CPO administration.
And to withhold the check.
And withhold the checks from CPO. Until USAC sees all of those things that we've asked for.
Can I get a second? Thomas motions, Kay seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. By a vote of 13 to 0 to 0, the motion passes, and the resolution and all the demands that we made are approved. Thank you so much, everyone. And with that, I motion to adjourn the meeting at what? Oh, Imani still has a comment?
Yeah.
Wait, is it there?
Yes.
Okay.
Starts at 9:23 p.m. for the first one.
Okay. So from Imani, Every year I have worked within different professional staff members as well as students since my first steps on campus. As someone who came into this space looking for direction and community, I am beyond disappointed as well as ashamed at the behavior of CPO, administrative staff, has conspired. I cannot speak to the blatant harassment, both physically, verbally, however, have experienced microaggressions and passive-aggressive tactics displayed and released on our projects. The history of CPO and the relationship to the mother organizations, depending on who you ask, is told differently. However, the one thing has remained the same in all accounts for the same 5 years I have been in this space, as well as talking to alumni from before my time, is a terrorization, intimidation, and insubordination, misappropriation of funds, and the physical harm done to students of our project professional staff in retaliation for going against CPO's abuse of power. The fact that these issues and gross actions have been able to continue is not just a CPO issue, but like all of my predecessors have said, the fault also falls on the university. In my tenure here, students have expressed their discomfort of being in SAC, and more specifically the CPO space. It makes absolutely no sense to me the outright disdain for students of color when this space was founded by students of color. From students with no previous knowledge or association to the dealings of CPO, to students both on project staff and the committee members, the fear that any expression of student initiate, okay, where is it? Okay, I think it's okay, right? From students with no previous knowledge or association to the dealings of CPO, to students both on project staff and the committee members, the fear that any expression of disagreement would result in this disruption of project services and harassment, and many of the other actions said tonight is deplorable. This space was built by students already struggling out of university that was not built for them, nor adapted to the needs that evolve and persist in society. For whatever reason, these powers are slowly being stripped and need to be restored. The fact that the idea of student-initiated student run is dead has been said by the CPO staff members. I feel displays how they feel about the space, with knowing that to allow our projects to stay in the space where their voices don't matter, plainly put to me, means you do not care about the needs and well-being of all students that this office claims to represent and support. We have a legacy to uphold as well as continue for those to come, and it is disrespectful and really just a slap in the face that people that feel that student-initiated and student-run is dead are running these spaces still. These proceedings have been a long time coming, and hope that these memorandums pass unanimously and we can move forward peacefully and unite, continuing the work of blood, sweat, and tears put in by our ancestors and predecessors. Thank you. So that was great. Okay. Thank you so much, Imani. We really appreciate the public comment. And with that, I move to